class session is all recorded. That way it's up and you can go back and review the lectures if you want to, okay? I will take attendance based on the names I see over on the right side of the screen as we log on. So right now there's 41 of you on, and I think there's only one phone number on there, which is a 480 area code. I don't know whose that is, but I can go back and do deductive reasoning and find out who that is. But this will be the attendance sheet that I use every class, okay? So you want to make sure that you're here and that you're present on the call. You don't have to be on video if you don't want to. That's okay. It's not required. If you are, just be decent. Okay. I had somebody that was in an MBA lecture, and from the waist up they were wearing like a dress shirt, and from the waist down they were wearing pajamas. It was just a little odd in class when they got up. It was just really, really weird. So just be thoughtful about that. Okay. You can ask questions anytime throughout the chats, but your final exam will be based on these lectures and your reading material in the class, okay? Let me see. All right, I think we have that. Let's see here. What else do I want to share with you? These classes will normally be about 25 or 30 minutes max. They're not going to be an hour and 15. That's way too much. Do the readings and make sure you go through the slides so that you can be on top of all that stuff. But you'll be good there. Okay. Anybody have any questions regarding assignments that are due, etiquette, or your final exam? You good? All right. Cool. All right. Let me move on. Let me try. Is the final exam only covered on the material covered in these online classes, or all the classes? That's a great question. I don't know. Let's take a vote. So respond number one if you want cumulative for the entire semester, or two if you want it to be based on the lectures for the second half that are all going to be on video and you're reading. But we may not cover every single thing during the lecture, but you got to still read it, right? So just chat me a 1 for full semester, higher kind of surface level, or 2 for a little bit more, let's just focus on the on the second semester in the session. Okay. Wow. You guys are all united. Can everybody else see the chats, or is it just me? Wow, everybody says 1. Brady says, "Hey, let's just do it on the first class, the first classes we had in person." All right, cool. I'm glad you guys can all see the chat. All right, cool. All right, so it'll be a little bit more big picture based on the first and second semester, material together, kind of at that level, okay? And we'll figure out the format as we go, right? The most important thing is make sure that you have, that you've read everything and you've stayed on top of the material so you're not surprised, okay? All right, sounds good. All right, we got the vote there. All right, let me move on to some material really quickly for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then I'll let you guys go. So let me try to share my screen, and let's just see if it all works. Okay, hang tight because I haven't done this yet on this application. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, and then let me go over here. All right, can everybody see that? All right, cool. Thanks. All right, so let me go ahead and go into presentation mode here, and go into some material. So where we left off in class was we were talking about HR, right? And how HR is taking care of the company's most precious asset and aligning it with organizational goals. And then we talked about discrimination and how important it is not to discriminate, and the different ways that legally you can legally you cannot discriminate. But there are certain instances that you can, based on certain things. For example, if you're going to teach at Biola, you have to be in line with our values, right? If you're going to work in a female locker room, you have to be female. If you're going to be a jet pilot, you have to be a certain height and that type of thing. So those are, we looked at different perspectives in HR. Now I wanted to just talk a little bit about some of the laws that exist out there. Okay. We talked about OSHA, which is the Health and Safety Act of 1970, and that basically requires employers to provide safe and healthy work environments for their employees. Here in the United States, we have code. Buildings need to be up to code, and they're inspected before they're open to the public. But it's important that you guys understand that that's not the case in everywhere you go. Right? If you go to certain places in a third world country, like let's say if you go to like Thailand or even in South America, you're not going to see the level of adherence to this kind of stuff. People die all the time. People get electrocuted. People are killed. In fact, in the World Cup, when it was in Brazil a couple years ago, they built a huge stadium in the Amazon jungle, and many people died in the process. But there was no OSHA. There was nothing. It's just people died, and that was kind of it. And when the World Cup was over, the stadium actually became abandoned, which was really, really unfortunate. But all that to say that here in the United States, OSHA requirements are focused around making sure that the workplace is safe and healthy for people to work at. Okay, and then there's a couple of laws that you need to know about. The Fair Labor Standards Act. That came out, I believe, in the 60s sometimes, or actually in the 30s. I'm sorry, Roosevelt. It came out in the 30s. And basically that says, hey, we're setting a minimum wage for work. And you know what? For employees that are on hourly, we need to make sure that we're treating them fairly. Now, in California, if you work over 8 hours or 40 hours a week, you're entitled to overtime pay as an employee. In other states, it may just be if you work over 40 hours a week. But here in California, you work over 40 hours or 8 hours in a day and entitled to. In 1963, an act called the Equal Pay Act that requires both men and women to be paid the same amount for doing the same job. And although the gender wage gap has closed, considerably over time, or I should say narrow, it hasn't closed completely, there still is a discrepancy between male and female pay with people with the same background, same education, same experience, exact same job. We do see a disparity in compensation. In California, less than in other states, but we do see it. Some people say, well, men negotiate sometimes more than females, and that could be true. In some places, men could negotiate more than females, and that might be part of the reason. But the disparity is pretty heavy. That I would not say that that's the only reason, but it may be part of it. Something to think about. That's why it's so important that you, both males and females, you'll all be able to negotiate when you are looking for employment, that kind of stuff. Okay. There's a couple of laws that require that the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, which basically means you can't treat somebody differently because they're pregnant. Okay, it's against the law. You could be fined, you can be penalized, and that type of thing. And then there's some laws that give people either partially paid or unpaid time if they are injured and that type of thing. For example, if a woman gets pregnant and she goes 12 weeks maternity time where her job is protected, generally speaking, for companies of middle size. And so you can't just fire that person. So generally speaking, if you have 12 weeks, their job is protected during that time. Now, depending on how long they've worked for that company, they may get partial pay, or they may get how much unused vacation and sick time. If you started only 6 months ago, you may not get any pay because you have to be there a while to earn some leave pay. You might still get insurance, but you may not have that leave pay. Okay, and then there's just another note on the Equal Pay Act that came out in the 60s. Okay, I don't believe we talked about this, but nepotism really is the practice of allowing relatives to work together in the same place of employment. Is it illegal? Not necessarily. But if it causes a major conflict of interest, or there are some distinct prejudices or discrimination based on that, that could be, for example, if the one parent wants to make unethical decisions and the son works there and is aware of that, that could potentially be a conflict of interest, or the parent says, fire so and so because I don't like them. Well, just because you are that person's relative doesn't mean that you should be doing those type of things. Okay. So that's nepotism, people of relationships working in the same workplace. And smaller companies, it's hard to avoid, right? Family restaurant to family bakery and that type of thing. But some of you may work in a family business or have thought about it. Be extra cautious of ensuring that you're doing things the right way. Okay, be beyond reproach. Workplace romance. All right. Is it illegal to find romance in the work or love in the workplace? No, it's not necessarily illegal. But if you are colleagues under the same department, or if one of you is the boss of another person, yeah, there could be some heavy conflict, including you could lose your job, you could be fined, your company could be sued. So hundreds of thousands of millions of people have found their future spouses or have dated people at work. So that's not to say that it's illegal, but there are some circumstances that require some special attention. Always just better off to let your boss know that if that's the case, if you're thinking about pursuing a relationship with somebody at work, and you guys are kind of serious about that, you need to let your boss know and give them the opportunity to maybe move somebody into a different department or to do something, because if you let it go, it could come back and backfire. Why do people not say anything? Because if they're just dating, they're thinking, well, I don't know if I really want to just marry this person, right? We're just going out for coffee, or hey, we're going out on a little bit more of a serious date. Okay. They may not think it's worth risking their job at that point. So you have to be really, really conscious of that. Okay. All right. Verbal harassment, sexual harassment, hostile work environments. Those are things that continue to happen in the workplace. We have to be very cautious of that as bosses, to make sure that we're treating people the right way. And as employees, if we see something that is not up to par, that we handle it the right way and report it. But harassment is just not a boss towards an employee. It can also be a employee towards a boss, an employee towards another's employee. It could be an employee towards a vendor. It could be an employee towards another employee's family member. I mean, there's many different ways or different forms that harassment takes place in, that we have to be very conscious of. Okay, and then I wanted to touch on disability discrimination, right? It's illegal to discriminate against somebody because of their disability, right? The American with Disabilities Act requires employers to treat people fairly, and just as they would any other type of situation, that we don't illegally do something. Okay. Who is a disabled person? Who is the type of person that you can't discriminate? Well, there could be physical or mental impairments, right? That limits activity. If somebody has a mental illness or a psychological disorder, that is now considered a disability. In the past, it wasn't necessarily considered a natural disability. Today it is. So if somebody suffers from depression or anxiety and that type of thing, getting help early and making sure that your employer is aware of that will help protect your job, and also you have rights as in that space. So very important that you're aware of that. Some people think that, oh, I don't want to let people know that I'm anxious or I'm depressed and I'm not going to get help. And eventually it'll blow up in the workplace. It'll come out one way or another. So it's important to address those type of things, get counseling and that type of thing. And companies are very, very good about working with you on that. Some even provide those services. But, you know, you do have some rights there. Okay, things like autism, blindness, cancer, HIV, somebody who's a recovering alcoholic, and even now, and you know, with the whole coronavirus thing, I just saw a new act that was passed by the administration that said that employers, within certain guidelines, must provide 2 weeks of sick time or sick leave to their employees if they have to stay home to care for children, if they have to miss work, that they can use sick time or leave to protect their jobs and to even partially be paid. So imagine right now if you are working in class and you were sent home like you were, uh, and I say, hey, listen, you know what, for the next 2 weeks, just we're giving you sick leave. We're going to give you 2/3 of your salary during this time. And your job is protected, you know, because imagine if you're an employer right now and an employee is taking care of their little children with the coronavirus, you know, because the coronavirus is going, and you fired that person, very bad move. Not only ethically, but you know, it could get a lot of media attention and that type of thing. So always making sure that we do the right thing. But yeah, there's some new acts and some new laws that are passing right now that are providing guidance for employers. And then the employer, by the way, all that money they pay out during sick time, they'll be able to get like a tax credit, you know, so it'll come back and help them too. So it's not that like they're just losing money. Okay. Okay, age discrimination laws. Did you know that you can, people get sued all the time for firing the old person or not wanting to hire the young person because they, you know, because of whatever reason. But the Age Discrimination Act says basically you can't discriminate against individuals, especially if you're over 40, you know, if you have more than 20 employees. And generally that's a guideline, by the way. The 20 employees, when you have more than 20 employees, you have to provide certain things. Below, sometimes you don't. Okay? Same thing with older workers. If you have a layoff or something like that, you have to give people time to think about it and sign off on it. You can't just have them sign a waiver, and you have to give them like a severance package. And you know, there's different type of benefits that people are entitled to in that respect. Okay, the immigration and discrimination, you know, area. There is an act called the IRCA, Immigration Reform and Control Act, and basically that all that says is if you want to work here in the U.S., you have to be able to provide the right documentation that shows you're eligible to work here. So when you go to a new job, you usually have to fill out like an I-9 form where they verify your either your passport or your driver's license and social security number. That basically say that you're eligible to work there. You fill out your W-4, but that's really important. And employers that don't check things thoroughly or don't visually inspect things, they are just as much in trouble as the person that maybe is trying to work without having the right authorizations. So a lot of burden is placed on employers as well. Okay, military. Okay, it is illegal to discriminate against a veteran or somebody who's in the reserve or has some tie-ins to the military. They are entitled to leaves of absence if they get called into the reserve and let's say they have to go back to war or have to, you know, they're called by somebody. I had an employee who worked for like Navy intelligence, and he got called to go on a special project and couldn't tell us details, but he had to, you know, he had to go to another part of the world to work on a project. He was Black Ops, and we had to hold his position, and he was gone for 8 months. And then when he came back, we had to give him some time to decompress, and then he came back in the workplace. But we could not just fire him. Okay. Okay. Questions for you. Can you discriminate against somebody because they're not dressing up a certain way for work? Yeah, There are certain jobs that require uniforms. Okay, there are certain jobs that require a certain height and a certain weight requirement, and that you could technically discriminate against if they don't fit that criteria. Okay, they're one-offs. They're not that it's not that obvious, but there are certain things that like if you're going to work at Disneyland, you have to wear their uniforms. If you're part of the quartet, you have to wear that uniform because it conveys an image and a brand for the company. Okay, last thought here, kind of bringing everything back home with HR, is the idea that HR helps forecast. So as companies are looking at laying off people and that type of thing, HR is in the middle of that. They have to help determine, who do we let go? Is it a fair system? Are we basing it on performance? Are we basing it on age? Like, let's make sure that we're doing it the right way. When they have to hire people, HR is in the middle of that. Who do we have to hire? How much are we going to spend? What is the job description and that type of thing? HR is in charge of training and development and all the different things that deal with people in the workplace is what HR is in charge of. Okay, so that is what I wanted to show you there regarding just the area of HR. Okay, so let me open it up for questions. If you have a question, you can go ahead and unmute it and let me know. And if there's too many, we can use the chat. But I just want to make sure that you have a good understanding with the HR kind of category and the chapter for the course.
Going back to the like the guy that was black ops and he had to like take a leave of absence.
Yeah.
Could you hire a worker, like a temporary worker? Like in the contract, it says like they're a temporary worker filling in for that worker, especially if like the black ops guy was like an upper division person.
Yeah, absolutely. We hired somebody temporarily to fill that job, and that person was hired on contract. And when the military individual came back, that person that was hired on contract, their job just finished up, and they were just on contract. They weren't hired full time or anything like that. So yeah, in that case, we needed to bring somebody back because we didn't know when he was coming back. Other people just go for 2 weeks, and they know they're gone for 2 weeks, so we don't necessarily replace that person. We just wait the 2 weeks. But yeah, that person was into some serious. He was in serious intelligence stuff. Like, it was really, really cool.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry. So I just wanted to ask about when, let's say if someone takes vacation leave and he's already part of the company, and that specific person ends up, let's say catching a really bad flu, through just being at home or whatever they were doing vacationing. So when that happens, do they add up the sick leave and the vacation leave together, or what would you do if it was something in your bank?
Yeah, so let's say, for example, in the bank, what we would do is, let's say you went on vacation and you asked for 2 weeks, right? And we approved it.
Right.
So we always document everything, right? So we approve the 2 weeks. They go to, let's go drastic. Let's say they go to Brazil for 2 weeks, and then they come back and they tell us that they contracted malaria or something like that. Or let's just say they have a bad flu. What we would probably do first is we would have them use their sick time. And if they go to the doctor and get a note from the doctor and we process it, they may go on sick leave, which basically, depending on how long they've been with the company, may be partially paid or unpaid. And then usually we have them exhaust all their sick time and personal time first. And then the sick time, the sick leave would kick in after that, so it gives them actually more time. But then again, keep in mind, everything has to be documented. So somebody can't just come back and extend their vacation and say, "Oh, I'm sick. I have to be out for another month." Well, you can actually lose your job if you don't provide the right documentation.
Okay.
But yeah, you can kind of piggyback them depending, and that does happen quite a bit. Somebody goes on vacation and they break a leg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So good question.
Okay, great. Thank you, Prof.
Cool. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, let me look at the chats here. Let's see here. Let's see, Prof, have you ever been in a situation where you had to sort of discriminate between two people who wanted to work for you? Yeah, all the time. I've been in situations where, I'd have two people in front of me, and I'd be like, you know what, this person is actually better qualified, but I kind of get along better with that other person. I mean, that happens sometimes because we tend to want to hire and work with people that are like us, right? If you're like, really excitable and extrovert, you may be very comfortable working around people that are the same way. If you're a little bit more reserved and introverted, you might look to hire people that are like you. So, we have to be very careful and know that the Lord has designed us each differently and that we can complement each other. But yeah, I've been in those situations many times where, I've wanted to hire somebody that, because I got along better with or something like that. But when you go back and look at the resume and you look at the qualifications, the person that you may not think is the best candidate, and let's take away anything like, let's just assume that you didn't see any red flags, personality wise or anything like that. You need to really think about that first, but yeah, it happens all the time, and you guys will face that quite a bit as well. Okay. Let me think. Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay. Got it. All right. Well, good. Well, listen, this is what I'm going to do now. In just a second here, I'm going to let you guys go. And if anybody wants to stay on for, like, let's say office hours, if you have questions, you can stay on and I can just go one by one and take those questions. If you prefer to do something on offline, just send me an email. And I can give you a call back, and for the next hour or so, I'll be available so I can call you and chat about anything that you want to go over as well. So having said that, we'll meet again Thursday at 3 o'clock, and we're going to talk about org behavior on Thursday. And what I may do after a week or two is I may just take the classes down to Tuesdays. And I've uploaded some videos of some recordings I've done for other management classes, like the online version or the MBA level. So maybe on Tuesdays we do a live session, and then for Thursday, I will give you guys an assignment to look at some of those videos and that type of thing. So let's see how things go. The feedback I've been getting from people that have emailed me is they kind of want to do the Tuesday, Thursday thing just to kind of have some normalcy and see some familiar faces, and it's kind of a break from a lot of the craziness. So we'll have class on Thursday at 3 o'clock. Again, I'll always look over to the right, and I could do a timing thing to see who's been on, pretty much close to the whole time, and use that as your attendance thing. So having said that, you guys have a fantastic afternoon. If you don't need anything else, you can go ahead and disconnect. If you have some questions you want to ask me, or like, let's say office hours, I'm going to stick around until everybody decides they don't want to be here anymore, and then I'll move on and we'll catch up again on Thursday, okay? So have a good one, everybody. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll catch up soon.
So,
Hey, peace out. Want to take care, brother. I'll see you at the Wingstop. Okay. Let's see. I got a couple people on. Trinity, do you have anything that any questions or anything like that I can help you with? Okay, Trinity's gone. Oh no, there's Trinity. So I got Trinity, Reagan, and Christian. So let me start with Trinity. Anything, Trinity, that you need from us?
Will there be a study guide for the final, or like how do we what kind of questions are we doing the question?
You know what? That's a great question. Thank you so much, Trinity. I'll have to kind of determine how to best do that. You know, I do have a study guide. It's pretty comprehensive. When you look at it, it can actually be kind of intimidating to look at.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'll go back and look at that. But I'll tell you, the best study guide is being at all the sessions, taking notes, because it's only going to be about a half an hour. And we'll only have, what, 6 more weeks, so there'll be a total of maybe like probably 6 to 10 maybe that we'll have. That'll be your study guide. So like, for example, today, I may ask about one of the laws or tell me about two of the laws. I don't know the format of the test yet. If I'm going to do like a timed multiple choice that you have to log on, using lockdown browser, or if it's going to be like, from this hour to this hour, I'm going to give you 20 short answer questions, and you have to. I mean, you don't have time to look up a whole bunch of stuff because time is of the essence. I don't know quite yet. I want it to be fair for you guys. I don't want to like stick it to anybody. But in terms of the best way to study is make sure you really read all your materials and that you pay attention to the lectures like we do in class, and you should be okay. Does that help?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll know more a little bit as we go as well. If I get a lot of people participating and they're on the calls and stuff like that, I tend to go a little bit easier on stuff anyway. So we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, Trinity, take care of yourself. We'll see you soon.
See you on Thursday. Bye.
Cool. All right, I see you. Reagan, you there? Reagan, are you there? You're on mute. I don't know if you had a question or.
There we go. No, I was just gonna ask the same thing Trinity was, so I'm good.
Okay, I'll make a note of that to see how I might be able to best help you guys prepare for that exam.
Sweet, perfect.
All right, brother, take care.
Yeah, you too.
All right, Mr. Ortiz, welcome to the call, my friend. How are you, man? Okay, so Mr. Ortiz is gone. Christian, it's just you. It's just you, me, and I think Reagan's still hanging on. But can I answer something for you, brother?
I wanted to ask you about. So I got confused. So a lot of people started spamming one. So what was option one and option two? So option one is cumulative, basically.
Yeah, cumulative for the entire semester. A little bit more surface level cumulative, and then option two was really just focusing on the second half of the course.
When you gave up that option, what goes through one's mind? Because I was thinking maybe because option one is just everything combined, but surface level, meaning just like
a little bit more higher level, like not diving in too deep. Just a little bit more higher level stuff. Whereas, like, imagine if you have 10 questions, right? And so if I do option number one, I have, let's just say, one question from each chapter, and I have to look for really higher level stuff. I can't dive too deep. Whereas if I go option number two, and I have 10 questions regarding the last 5 chapters, I have 2 questions per each chapter, and so they could be a little bit more specific.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it looks we'll probably do something a little bit more cumulative. I just got to figure out the right format that makes sense for everybody.
Okay. Great. Perfect. Thank you so much, Prof. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. Take care of yourself now. See you Thursday, okay?
You too, sir. Thank you.
All right, man. Cool. Anybody else? You all good?